Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! And they are back on terms!
Hello and welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. We have not much Rotherham United stuff to talk about today, but there's still plenty of Rotherham United related stuff. We've got two new guaranteed opponents to talk about for next season as the championship is almost complete. So we'll cover through that. That might be about it, mate, but we'll get there.
If it's just me and you, mate, it's going to be over and done with in a blink of an eye, isn't it?
No, I'm sure you've got plenty of rants to do, to be honest with you. Haven't you?
I could think of one or two things on that night to chat about.
Danny will be joining us in a moment, but in the comments we have S64 Miller with us, Neil Liversidge, Gav Grundy, YouTube user Philip Hawes, Theo Liversidge, Paul Brock, and Powermad UK with us. If you guys want to talk, any in the comments wants us to cover a topic, let us know. We have plenty of time as things stand. Hello everybody. What do you want to talk about first, mate? Do you want to cover the League One playoffs in terms of who's coming up with us, or do you want to talk about who fell through the metaphorical trap door from the Premier League?
Well, you mean from falling out of heaven into real life.
Yeah. And let's start with this one. Let's start with transfer rumours. Jalen Simpson, is it true that Cardiff have made a move for Smith? Well, what I would say to that, Jalen, is that that's the same account that stole our rumour of Marcus Force. So it depends on whether our rumour is true. That's all I'll say. I haven't heard anything concrete on anything to do with Smith. Danny, I don't know if you've heard anything. Welcome, Danny, first of all. Have you heard anything on the Smith rumours other than he's still deciding?
No, heard nothing. That's the first time I've heard of any other interest in Smith, to be fair. I know he's said that a few other clubs did reach out to him, but he said it was nothing concrete. And if Cardiff have moved very quickly for him, then it's back in our court to try and keep him here. But yeah, it is from the same account that stole. We'll stick with that. That stole our rumour of Marcus Forss coming to Rotherham, that I did get quite reliable information on all the way back at the end of last season. But then as soon as it's been tweeted out, and then suddenly, oh, hello, it's been tweeted out by somebody else with no link to a source. So cheers, lads, but we are in the comment section now claiming it. So there you go. But yeah, with Michael Smith and Cardiff, I've not heard anything concrete. I don't know if Cardiff are looking for a centre forward of Smith's ilk. And to that point as well, why would he want to uproot his family from this neck of the woods when he's got another baby on the way and move all the way down to Cardiff? You know, it's a bit...
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning that if the rumours are true that Gareth Bale's going to Cardiff, that's going to take up a significant percentage of their wages. Even if he drops his wages by probably 75%, that's still going to be a terrific amount of cash that they have to fork out weekly. So that puts question marks for me on what other type of players they can afford to. Now, we know Smith's not going to be on 50 grand a week, mate, but even 15 grand a week, when you're paying potentially 50 grand a week to somebody else, it doesn't quite add up to me anyway.
It depends how deep Cardiff's pockets are, doesn't it? You know? They'll be well past the parachute payments now, I would imagine. So, you know, financial fair play and all that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. To be fair, Gareth Bale, I mean, he doesn't need to. He could work for free for the rest of his life and still have, still be a multimillionaire. So it depends whether he wants to play football or not, doesn't it?
I think he'd prefer to play golf.
Well, exactly. I mean, he's not sort of put himself in a great light, has he, over the years with his attitude? I don't know what the issues were at Real Madrid. Yeah, and clearly there are going to be issues there because there's horrible personalities there, the likes of Ronaldo and people like that who, think they're better than everybody else. I mean, he is obviously but so is Gareth Bale on his day. So I don't know. Depends what their, like I said, what their financial state is, and whether that's going to put them into the financial fair play arena. But listen, if Smith has got an opportunity to go and play with Gareth Bale, would you advise him against it?
Can you imagine match up there? Wouldn't that be glorious, sir?
Yeah.
Bale putting on a sixpence for Smithy to bang him home from. That'd be brilliant.
No, I'd be more looking forward to Gareth Bale against Richard Wood, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Is there any other rumours we can mention, Danny, that I've seen literally nothing over the last couple of days? I don't know if you've got anything that you know that's bubbling under.
No, it's all gone quiet, to be fair. Which is, I don't know. At this point in the season, as fans, we sort of like to be drip fed rumours, don't we? Even if it's complete twaddle. But yeah, it's all gone quiet. It's all gone quiet from the club as well. So I think it's just securing assets and trying to secure assets now. But we should know by the end of, is it next week? About Smudge.
End of the coming week.
Yeah, end of the coming week. We shouldn't find out about Smudge. So we'll find out if the Cardiff rumour was pulled out of one's backside or it was true, basically. But yeah, I think at this point now, everyone's just starting to let us settle, and the teams that are now in our league are reevaluating their position, and the two teams that are still fighting it out for the last promotion place, they'll have to reevaluate their situation. So I think it'll be quiet for the next week, 2 weeks or so, and then it will probably suddenly kick into gear around early June, I think. Yeah,
I think you're probably right. Let's move on then. If anything pops up, we will go through that as the show progresses. So Twitter is, for example, telling our podcast account to start following Burnley Football Club. I wonder why that is. Let's talk about the League One playoff final first. So it was Sunderland 2, Wycombe Wanderers 0. I'm not going to say it's a win for football, Danny, that we don't have to play Wycombe next season, but it's probably the lesser of two evils from a football point of view for next season that Rotherham and Wycombe don't have to meet again.
Yeah, and I think, well, certainly based off performances this season, we played better against Sunderland than we did against Wycombe, or at least we were allowed to play better, shall we say. But yeah, I mean, I said beforehand that I thought Sunderland were going to win purely because of the superstition of that West End at Wembley, and sure enough, there you go. I'm telling you, every fan base that's in the West End of Wembley in the playoffs now will win the playoff. I'm nailing my colours to mast on that one because the East End is cursed. But I think Sunderland going up is probably the first instance of a player getting promoted twice with two different clubs in the same season. Because Will Grigg got promoted with us in regular time, shall we say. And then he's gone back to Sunderland and now he's been promoted again with the Sunderland lot. Does he get 2 bonuses for that? I'm not sure. But
I don't think we'd have to pay a bonus to him, but I'm certain that I'm almost certain that Sunderland would have had to pay a contractual bonus.
Apparently, according to Paul Kendrick, who's the journal who covers Wigan, they owe Wigan, I think it's 250k of their promotion money to Wigan for buying Will Grigg, and then they've been supplementing his loans whilst he's been on loan with us. So it's a very Sunderland thing. They still have to pay Wigan for a player they bought off him, whilst paying his wages to another club, and both clubs finished above him in the league and went up automatically. Very, 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 very interesting. But I saw a comment about do we think Sunderland are going to overspend in the Championship? Where's it gone?
I have seen that.
Here we go from Jamie. Do you think Sunderland will overspend in the Championship? I think they will, to be fair. I think they're going to try and go for it and try and sign some good players in, which might push Will. There we go. So, yeah, I think they will. I think they'll try and bring in some a better centre forward, shall we say, than Will Grigg, which might push him out and bring him back home to here, shall we say. But I think Sunderland will spend quite a lot in the Championship because now they do want to definitely stay up and push on, don't they? But you never know, he might come back and bite him.
He'll definitely score. If he comes to us next year, Grigg is definitely scoring at Stadium of Light. 100% nailed on. We might lose 3-1, but Will Grigg will definitely score.
He might even score at the DW as well.
Yeah, Exactly. On the game itself, Mick, it was, from a Wycombe Wanderers point of view, a very, very disappointing performance. They were second best from minute 1 to basically minute 90. They had a spell here and there. But that, for me, that was a completely unrecognisable Wycombe Wanderers to what I've seen play us and play other teams over the past few years. I just didn't recognise them at all.
No, I think Gareth Ainsworth got it wrong. They moved away from what they are good at, which is what everybody else hates, and they didn't play the Wycombe way. Had they done so, I think they would have frustrated Sunderland a lot more than they were able to by trying to take game to them, which was the wrong. It was just the wrong tactic. Well, I think we were all expecting. Well, we were, weren't we? We were all expecting sort of 15 minutes worth of football, and Wycombe to bag a late winner somewhere. But they moved away from what they're good at, and you can't do that in the last game of the season or such an important game. You've got to work with what you know. So I think they're probably the architects of their own downfall, really. I'm kind of disappointed a little bit because, well, you go to the comment that Jamie made there. Do you think Sunderland will overspend? Yeah, I do. 100% they will. And if the issue we've got is that they've got a manager in Alex Neil who's a very, very good and very experienced manager, which would suggest they might get the right players in this time, which would be a bit of a disaster for some of us. They're not going to end up being one of the ones that are struggling if that's the case. And we need, well, do we? I was going to say what we need is the teams that have come up with us to be down there at the bottom end of the table fighting. Do we need that? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see until what our recruitment team bring in. But yeah, I think they'll spend. There will be the man with no arms.
They very, very could well be. On the goals, the first one, David Stockdale has had an absolute stinker, an absolute stinker. I've seen people try and defend him on Twitter saying the ball swerved. If it's swerved like millimeters, and it's just gone past him. I don't really understand what he's trying to do. Really, it's just absolute shocker.
Yeah, well, I mean, he got. I was going to say he got wrong-footed. He didn't even get wrong-footed. It was just. He had a mare, didn't he? He had a mare. He can't even claim a deflection.
No.
And I think the fact that he laid face down Wembley turf for 30 seconds afterwards probably said all you needed to know. I think he was just hoping it were going to open up and swallow him. Not a great effort, that.
No. What I loved also at half-time is as he's walking off the pitch, clearly devastated, just made a mistake. The cameraman walks with him just to let him know that he's showing the entire country.
Yeah.
Mistake. I'm sure that made him feel loads better. But the build-up to the goal, the Embleton scored, he's ran from halfway line to edge at Wycombe's box, completely unchallenged. Again, I can't think of anything less Wycombe-like. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Bizarre. Really, really peculiar. But yeah, naive, and you wouldn't expect that from Gareth Ainsworth.
Naive. Very naive. Yeah, well. The second goal then came late on from Ross Stewart. You could question the keeper, Mick, but I'm not going to question the keeper. I think it's a great finish. I think he's unsighted the keeper. As Paul once said in his quest coverage, he's gone through the player's legs, which then makes it almost impossible for the keeper to see what's happening. And Ross Stewart, 26 goals this season. It's flown because we've had Michael Smith. It's flown under our radar, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
But 26 goals in League One's an incredible achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, he kind of feigned to put it the other side of the keeper as well, the other side of the net. So it looked like he was going to go in the right-hand side, and he ended up putting it in the left. So I can see why the keeper didn't get anywhere near that one. But no fault on Stockdale for that one. But yeah, it's lots and lots of happy Macans, weren't they?
Yes, there was. Danny, anything to add on before we talk about our team? We will definitely play next season, Sunderland. Thoughts on Wycombe? Just glad we don't have to play them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they do like a 0-0, don't they? Especially against us this season. I think Wycombe are the only team that we didn't score or concede against in both fixtures. And yeah, I think like we said earlier, they didn't really turn up at Wembley, did they? We thought they were going to play one way, and even the commentator said it's not very Wickham, this performance. And I think a lot of it was just down to Sunderland wanting it more. They finally got out of League One now, and I think Wickham will probably have a season to reanalyse and re-energise for next season. I think Gareth Ainsworth will probably push them up the league a bit more now. Now that this has happened. But yeah, they just didn't turn up at Wembley. I don't know if you've mentioned it, but with Stockdale's trying to save the first goal, I mean, even players who were goalkeepers, it's like he's moved away from it. I don't know if he expects it to curl or he's just hitting straight at him, but it's sort of like just skims his shoulder and it goes in. It's a very strange way of trying to save it. He couldn't do anything for the second goal, and I think Sunderland did deserve to win in the end. But it's a shame because Wickham can't repeat the feat that they did a couple of seasons ago in the playoff final. Could be down to fan pressure, to be fair, because they won that one behind closed doors, didn't they? But
True.
I
True. Mick, I assume you've got a rant prepared about Sky Sports loving Sunderland, or mention about the Premier League, or something you would like to have a bit of a chat about? Mick ranting coming.
There's no point, is there? I mean, everybody's done it so well on Twitter anyway. It's been covered. It's just, I don't know how to describe it for anybody that wasn't or was fortunate enough not to listen to it without swearing. I mean, it's just, it was awful, wasn't it? It's not just me, is it? It was.
There were parts that were awful.
Utterly dreadful.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. I mean, Danny's now disappeared, obviously, but you think about journalists or commentators and everything else, and they obviously prep for the commentaries that they're doing or for the articles that they're writing. But as a commentator, you're just really there to explain what's happening, as opposed to just churn out utter nonsense. And it is nonsense, isn't it? It's like, they used to be in Premier League. They've got lots of fans. And then 30 seconds later, after a next passage of play, they've got lots of fans and they used to be in Premier League. And then they used to be in Premier League and they've got lots of fans. It's like, what? Just shut up, man.
The worst bit about it was the lead commentator, I forget his name, but he was
Gary
itching. Gary Weaver, he was itching to call Ross Stewart the Loch Ness Drogba, and even his co-commentator went, "Oh, here we go." But I do agree, Mick. As commentators, you are there to tell you what's happening. Lyndon Goop passes it to Ross Stewart, who drives it forward, that sort of thing. Not just go, "Oh, this massive club are now heading in the right direction." I mean, technically right, but they've only just got back to the Championship, lads. It's taken them 5 seasons to get back to the Championship, and every single time Rotherham's been in League One over the last 10 years, we've gone up first time. Whereas with Sunderland, it's taken them 5 years and one already failed playoff campaign, and now they've won the second one. Fair play to them, yeah, no doubt about that. But to big them up as this sleeping giant entity, it was worse when they were playing Sheff Wednesday, to be honest. Let's be real. But to just big them up that much and to be so attendance policey about it all and the amount of fans they've got and this great club and this and another. Yeah, they are a great club, but they've been in League One for a reason. You know what I mean? They've been in League One because they're not good enough for the 44 other teams in the country, and that's why they're in League One. Actually, no, they've been worse than 51 teams in the Football League this season, 2 of which were in their own league and went up before them, which was us and Wigan, obviously. But to big them up like that, it's like, yeah, they're a big club, no doubt about it. But they're a big club that's in League One for a reason. It's like the whole thing with Sheff Wednesday, it's a Premier League fixture in all but name. No, it isn't. Sheffield Wednesday haven't been in the Premier League since 2000, I think. Yeah. Sunderland, all right, more recently, and they've fallen down the league. But like I've kept saying, they're there for a reason. And to big them up so much, it's a bit, come on,
Yeah, it's the same as social media. It's just about getting clicks, isn't it? It's just, you know, they pick the biggest club or the club with the biggest fan base from whatever commentary they're doing, and just blather on about them all the time, don't they? You know, and it were a real struggle for them in that Wednesday Sunderland game, which one they were going to suck up to the most, weren't it? But what they think is, I guess, that they work on the basis that they've got lots of fans, so we might get some more subscribers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So essentially, what they're doing, they're just trying to sell their product. Well, you don't need to sell their product. You know,
if you're watching it, you've paid for it, or almost certainly paid for it, and you're.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So just get on with and do your job.
Yeah. Jamie says on the Mick rant, Mick rant incoming, and then Mick always says, "Oh, there's no point," and then goes into the rant. That's correct. I almost feel sorry for Sunderland fans in the terms of their coverage, because looking at social media, looking at Sunderland fans' social media, they were just buzzing. I barely saw any comments about their attendance, any comments about them being a massive club. There were barely anything. They were just buzzing. Even before the game, they were just so excited and nervous for the day. Obviously, Wickham fans as well. And then to see all the stuff on social media, I made me jealous that we weren't involved. I'm glad we weren't involved in a way, obviously. But it just reminded me of how I went at Wembley this season, I went at Gillingham. The party afterwards, the way they were just treating it, the sort of coverage almost takes away from what they've actually achieved, which, bearing in mind their Wembley history, this is a great achievement based on that recent history.
That's exactly what it does, Matt. And that's exactly what it does, because what they're doing is reminding Sheffield Wednesday fans, reminding Sunderland fans of the recent history, and not very nice history, slipping down the league, financial issues. All you're doing by saying that they're a Premier League club and they shouldn't be in here and they shouldn't be doing this and they've escaped League One and all this nonsense, all you're doing is reminding them of how bad it's been. That's all you're doing. Yeah. Instead of just letting them get on with it and enjoy it, you're just telling everybody, "Oh, you used to be big, you." Used to be massive. It's essentially what they're doing. So I suppose we should enjoy it, really, particularly when they do it to Wednesday.
Yeah, well, because they would. Paul Brock says, would the commentators have been any different had the fouls got up? Suspected would have been. It would have been 100% exactly the same.
Yeah, it would, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the commentators said apparently the championship isn't good enough for Sunderland.
Oh, I had my head in my hands when they said that. It's like, oh dear.
This is also, again, if you ask any Sunderland fan, of course they'd like to be in Premier League, but I think they're more than happy to be in the Championship next year. I said it earlier, I think they'd be buzzing to be in the Championship. So it just takes away from their day almost, and it just seems unnecessary. I don't like it.
It's poor. It's poor and it's lazy.
Yeah, it is.
It's just lazy.
Yeah, it's the easy route into it.
Yeah,
very much so. Mike the Miller says, "Bang on, Mick. To Sky, the bigger club they can eulogise about. They hope the more pound notes in their back pocket. Mick may be on a rant, but he is so right. Doesn't always happen."
Well, I usually am right when I'm on a rant.
Yeah, the good thing is Leeds didn't come down, so Sky can't get excited about Leeds, can they? So.
No.
That's very true, actually. But here's a question for you. In fact, not a question. I think we should put a bet on this, right?
Go on.
How many times are Sunderland going to be on Sky in the Championship next season?
A lot. But we'll do it as part of our pre-season predictions.
Yes, good idea.
Keep counting them, won't they? Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah. 46. Not including cup games. Yeah. The downside of Sunderland coming up, Danny, is, as we've already mentioned, it's very unlikely that Sunderland, because of what the manager is, a very good Championship manager, and because of the bigger budget they have, there's a strong chance they won't be in a relegation fight. They might be, but there's better chance of Wickham being in a relegation fight than Sunderland. That's the downside, isn't it, really?
I mean, on paper, yes, but I think Sunderland might be in for a shock with the Championship, to be fair. I think they were so focused on getting out in League One, now they've got to face the Championship, and it's a totally different beast. I mean, granted, we have various arguments as to why we haven't stayed up in the Championship ourselves, but we've had more experience over the last 10 years of the Championship in terms of trying to grind out the relegation fight, but Sunderland haven't had that. Because the one time they were in the relegation fight, they failed. Whereas with Rotherham, we've had a few goes at it and we've improved every single time we've done it. Well, especially under Paul Warne. I mean, not in terms of linear championship, but under Paul Warne, we've improved every single time. So it could be a little bit of a shock for Sunderland, and it could derail their season in the early stages, just that initial shock of it. You know, because they might improve later on, yeah, but the damage could already be done. But, I mean, it's all speculation at the minute, but it's one of the, I mean, we're not even in June yet, lads. They might have a horrid season, or they might finish 10th. You know, we don't know, do we?
Yeah. True. Very true. Very, very true. Miller and the Kucha comment says, "See you next season." He just wanted to say hello. He's a Watford fan. Hello. I hate playing Watford. I hate playing Watford. They always do us, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I've forgotten about Watford, and with the greatest of respect, I had genuinely forgotten that Watford had come down even. I think the games between us and Watford next season should just be like a yo-yo competition rather than football. You know what I mean? Because that would suit both clubs, really, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? We're both good at going up and down, not very good at playing football. Championship, anyway. Yeah.
Very true. John S. on Wigan are coming up. They spent a reasonable good amount last year. Can't do that twice, or financial fair play will be around the corner. Yeah, they spent a lot on wages. Because they went into admin, that benefited them by not having any previous history. So that's why the wages were a lot bigger. But obviously, this will come in going forward. John Morrell says, "Wishful thinking, Danny. Alex Neil is a very good championship manager, and he will have them ready for it." I suspect that will be the case, unfortunately. The question John Knoxley wants to ask Mick is thoughts on Freddie at the Sunderland game. Just to sort of clarify, he wasn't in any section. He was in the posh seats. If you're looking at the camera at Wembley, you've got the dugouts, and then just at the side of the dugouts, they're essentially they're not quite the executive suites, but it's almost a neutral venue for seats for guests and whatnot. So Freddie wasn't in a stand with a set of fans. Just sort of clarify that. Not that it really matters, Mick, but thoughts on it?
Yeah, I suspect he's there as a guest of one of the two clubs that were playing. And obviously, the speculation is that it'd be Sunderland. I don't think it would be. I suspect because he's a Southern lad, isn't he, Freddie? Originally, I think is he not a London lad?
I think he's London lad. Yeah.
I suspect Wickham would be a very good fit for Freddie. Very good fit. As a decent foil for Volks. Volks, whatever, you know. Well, it would be, you know, and he's, the thing about it as well, because of Freddie's habit of drifting in and out of games, he would fit in well with the way that Wickham play, because Wickham literally drift in and out of games, don't they? You know what I mean? So that might be a rumour we could pass on to EFL Hub. You know, Freddie Ladapo to Wickham, I suspect is probably, my sources are telling me, on the cards. With yesterday at Wembley to see his future teammates and to replace Akinfenwa.
John Morella points out it was sat near Jude Bellingham, I believe. I don't think Jude Bellingham's making a move to Wickham or Sunderland anytime soon. So I think he's just mates with somebody. Do you think, though, Danny? Do you think him and Paul Warne exchanged pleasantries, or?
I mean, they might have done, but you say about Jude Bellingham, I mean, we were just on about Sunderland maybe overspending in the Championship. So, but no, I think with Freddie, he's mates with a few of the lads in the Wickham squad. So I think he was there as like a mate's guest sort of thing. But I don't know, they might have exchanged pleasantries, they might have bumped into each other. But Warney was on Quest pundit duty. Once he was like their manager pundit. Then they had Liam Richardson on Sky. So they might have come across each other, but I'm not too sure. I haven't had a chance to see Paul Warne on the Quest show yet. Has anyone else seen him? How did he do? Did he do well?
I've seen bits. I mean, just Paul Warne, he were great. From the bits I've seen, he was just he's honest and knowledgeable. That's Paul Warne, isn't it?
Brilliant. Making a good account of himself. Good lad.
Okay. John Morrell says Jude was a guest of David Stockdale. They became mates at the Blues. Yeah, Jude Bellingham had some cheering up to do then, didn't he? On Saturday night.
He worked after that game.
Oh, brilliant. Chris Wright said he watched a Sunderland podcast around January and their fans were touting Ladapo for them. Yes. It depends on Sunderland's ambitions. If Sunderland's ambitions are just to try and stay up, then yeah, go for Freddie. But if your ambition is anything other than to try and stay up in the Championship, not that Alex Neil's going to watch this and listen, but I advise against it. Completely advise against it. It's not good enough for a higher level in the Championship for me.
But it's not an Alex Neil type player either, is it?
I don't think he is now.
Alex Neil strikes me as a type of manager who expects his players to put a shift in. Certainly the difference between playing Sunderland under that little bloke and then under Alex Neil, they were a different proposition. You know, so and then that was mainly down to work rate, in my view, from what I saw anyway. So I don't see him being an Alex Neil kind of player, and I suspect that Sunderland will be setting the sights a little bit higher.
The January link made sense to me. If it had gone in January, that would have made sense.
Yeah,
I don't think it makes any sense going forward.
No.
But there we go. That's the League One done. What we're going to do now is a quick chat with Ben from Manscaped advert, and then we'll be back to cover the relegation battle in the Premier League, which affected us. So we'll see you in just a moment. Thank you.
Manscaped, who very kindly decided to sponsor us. They're promoting their new product, the Lawnmower 4.0, which is kind of well known for reducing cuts and making it a lot easier to trim your balls. You can buy this separately or in a bundle called the Performance Package, which in that you get a ball toner, and ball deodorant, which are actually very handy because they're specifically designed for your balls, so they work very well. I highly recommend all of this. The lawnmower, it comes with a little light. Comes with a little light there that comes on when you turn the razor on. So it's very good. It comes with a little charging port, which is also a little holder. Yeah, I highly recommend it. I use it, and I highly recommend it.
You highly recommend it, Ben? You highly recommend that somebody goes to manscaped.com and enters the code NYT for free shipping and 20% off. So that's manscaped.com for 20% off free shipping using the code NYT. And Ben highly recommends it.
Ben highly recommends it. And keep an eye out on the next few weeks. We've got a new product coming out from Manscaped, the Boxers 2.0. There will be more to come on that very, very shortly. Don't forget, if you want them, NYT. Mick's laughing already.
I am, yeah.
I would show the Manscaped product that I am wearing, but we'd get flagged on YouTube. Because Mick's got the shirt on, I've got my own Manscaped thing on, but I can't show it.
You don't really want to see it.
No. I am representing, though.
Yes. Will Daniels on the Freddie Ladapo chat. Sunderland won't need Ladapo. They'll sort of re-sign Broadhead, who came off the bench yesterday, permanently from Everton. Now Everton is safe. And Ross Stewart will say, I was very impressed with Ross Stewart. It's the first time I've properly watched him outside of Rotherham game. I was properly impressed with him. So it would be a handful. Before we move into the Burnley chat, Mick, Cheryl Stone wants to know, what are the away sides you're looking forward to most next season? And it's a good little lineup in terms of people north of us. You've got Blackpool, Burnley, Preston, Blackburn, Wigan up in the Manchester region. You've got Hull, Sunderland, Middlesbrough in your northeast. You've got obviously Sheffield United, Stoke relatively close, West Brom, Birmingham, Coventry in the Midlands. And then everywhere else is sort of further south. For us, there's no Plymouth or anything like that. It's stupid travelling time, which is quite good.
Yeah, the furthest one obviously is Norwich in it, so that'll be a Tuesday night.
Obviously, yeah,
without a doubt. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know where which I'm looking forward to. It'd be nice to get back to Turf Moor. It's a long time since I've been to Turf Moor. Always found that a really, really difficult place to go. And I'm sure next season will be no different, will it? But they were always a good away day. So yeah, we'll see. There's plenty of the away days in the Championship are nowhere near as good as they are in League One, and they're not. And I'm not wishing I were back in League One. Clearly, obviously, but yeah. Burnley, Turf Moor, I think is probably top of my list.
The good thing about the Championship is the sort of pubs and things around the stadiums are designed for more than just 500 fans. You know, in Gillingham, the pubs around the ground, I weren't particularly impressed with it because it's Gillingham and they don't expect it. Whereas West Brom and all these other teams, having not been to West Brom, I think the setup's probably a bit better. Danny, is there any? Bear in mind we don't know about Sheffield United, Huddersfield and Forest. Any other ones that take your fancy?
I mean, for me, I've only done 4 grounds in the Championship, so
Have you really?
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to them all. The other ones I've done are Wigan, Sunderland, Bramall Lane, and I've done 5 because I've done QPR and St Andrews. But when Coventry were there, so it's like, does it count? Does it not? Well, anyway, so yeah, I'm looking forward to them all. Really, maybe not the Tuesday night to Norwich, which, like you say, Mickey's effectively nailed on.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, I'm looking forward to Turf Moor because it's one of your more classic, just 4-sided football grounds. Yeah. And apparently the cricket club that's bang next door lets away fans in, so that should be nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've been to most of the northern ones. I still haven't done Sunderland Middlesbrough because we always play them on a Tuesday night, which always kills me. But still those two. Looking forward to it. Steve Cooper says Swansea's always a trek. Yes.
Great ground.
And we always get crap referees.
Yeah, we do, yeah. Cracking ground. I shall certainly be good at both Swansea and Cardiff. They're two that have already earmarked.
Unless it's Tuesday night.
Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah, they're booked in for us whenever they are. Who would you like on the open day of the season, Danny? Now, this is always an interesting one for me. For me, his answer is very simple. Burnley. They're coming down. They'll be in a bit of turmoil. Let's play them early doors.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually. Maybe, would you say Burnley away or Burnley home first game of the season, though?
Ooh, probably Burnley away, because then later on in the season we can have them at home. Because we'll need the fans a bit more then, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, actually. But I do have a football, not oddity, but it's like an interesting thing that's occurred in the Championship. So if you separate England into South, Midlands and North, right, 50% of the Championship is Northern teams.
Is it?
yeah. If you just squeak Stoke into that, 50% of the league's Northern teams. We just call it the Northern Championship for this year. but it's also good for the club because we've got all of these teams round us who all have decent away followings. I reckon our away end will be packed out week in, week out. So that'll be good for the club's finances, but also generate an atmosphere at New York Stadium because there's always a better atmosphere when there's more away fans because we sort of counteract them, if that makes sense. So yeah, it could be a very, very fruitful season in the Championship, both for the club's coffers and for atmosphere, which would be nice. And for us taking a few fans away as well, because like I said, 12 teams are in the north. That's 12 decent away days. That's not too far away travel-wise, unless it's Sunderland on a Tuesday night. But hopefully it's not. Hopefully they'll focus on the southern team for Tuesday nights.
I hope so.
Well, no, actually, the perfect thing would be the Midland team. So it's like just halfway.
Yeah. Sheffield. We get Sheffield on a Tuesday night both times. That'll do.
That's a good idea.
Will Daniels says Preston or Blackpool away on the first of the season. Blackpool in July, Mick. Tickle your fancy at all?
Nah, not really. I mean, we'll go obviously, but it would particularly tickle my fancy now. I'm not a fan of Blackpool, but they are.
3 points, fish and chips, beer on seafront. I don't know what you want. What is not appealing to you?
I like that 3 points. I like the sound of that. That'd be nice.
3 points, Jerry Yates' own goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Neil Liversidge, does anybody know how many season tickets we've sold so far? No. Any of you two, any ideas yet? I swear we'll update it in the next few days, to be honest with you.
I think it's difficult with the renewals. I think it's well over 4,500. I think I've read somewhere already. But it's difficult to know, isn't it? Because obviously the vast majority of us are on auto renewal, I think. Certainly, the vast majority of us. The vast majority of us three are. So I'm just gonna scale that up. You know what I mean? So I don't know, no idea. But it's interesting, isn't it? You know, it just shows how far we've come. This is pull up a sandbag. Let me tell you a story. When we were at Millmore, the company I worked for used to print the season tickets, and if we got over 2,000, it was a good season. If we had to print over 2,000 season tickets, it was a very, very good season. So we're now 10 years down, well, more than 10 years down the line since leaving Millmore. Probably 15 years since I was involved in that. So that just shows you how far we've come as a club. We're only tin pot, we're only small, but you know, the vast majority of people that come through that turnstile on a Saturday or a Tuesday night are season ticket holders, which is phenomenal. So
yeah, it is. I agree. Steve Cooper mentions there'll be a lot of Tuesday games because of the World Cup. Yeah, that takes up a 4-week gap. But we do start earlier, and I think the normal league finishes maybe a week or so later. So they have counted in a little bit, but then you were counting any postponements, any FA Cup runs for any clubs.
But we do love a night match at New York, don't we?
Oh, don't we just? Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about who's joining us from the Premier League. Burnley have managed to tumble to the trapdoor, as it's referred to, having lost to Newcastle United, and Leeds picked up a win, against 9-man Brentford. The heroically soldiered past 9-man Brentford to secure Premier League survival. Well done, Leeds. Before the game, were you bothered who you got?
Yeah, I didn't want Leeds.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want Leeds. I didn't want Sheffield United to. I wanted Sheffield United to go up. You know what I'm like with derbies. I hate them. I can't stand them. You know, they're great. It's great when you've won, when you're walking away from Swillsborough with 3 points in your back pocket. I love that. I love that bit of it. The rest of it, I can't stand. I hate it. So we've now got to go to Bramble Lane, which is a bit of a ball ache. But
I heard that one before. I like that.
It's like, you know, I'm banking on Huddersfield going up, so we've only got which is not really a derby, is it? To be fair,
not really. It's much as a derby as Forest, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. So, what question? Oh, Leeds.
You wanted Burnley, and you got Burnley.
Yeah. And John's just put it up now on the comments there. John Morell's just put it up. I was just about to go on about this. Burnley are going to be in trouble now that they've come down financially. I think they've got some significant issues. They've got something like a £65 million loan that is going to be due for recall or repayment now that they've been relegated. So, you know, it's going to be. It might not be quite plain sailing despite the parachute payments for Burnley. So we'll have to wait on that.
As John Mel points, Burnley are financially screwed. I think they're going to have to pay a £65 million loan and question marks over the owner. So when the not financial expert, as you'll probably see from this explanation, when the club was sold earlier on in the season, the cash that was used to buy the club with was a loan against the club. And if they got relegated, then that loan became payable almost in full. So basically, the loan was against the parachute payments. And when you get relegated, that parachute payment is meant to soften your fall from the Premier League. It's now gone into the cash pockets of whoever this company is. I don't know who they are. So that means they have no cushion. They have no cushion to soften the blow of falling out from a wages point of view, from blah 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 point of view. It puts them in back. But Sheffield United went through this similar thing last season, to be fair. So it's not a fatal blow to them next season, Danny. But if they didn't have this loan, they obviously would be in a much better position.
I could feel the cogs in my head turning, trying to work that out. My God. But yeah, the way, like you say, I think I've got my head around it. So because they went down, that loan is now repayable against the club. But if they'd have stayed up, then it works differently.
It weren't payable for like 5 years or something like that.
Right, got you. And I think Burnley get a 80 mil windfall for in parachute payments in the first season, I think. So they've still got 15 mil either side, which I'm sure with that loan they'll be paying it in instalments, won't they?
No, it's due. It's due up.
Oh, is it 65 mil bang on the table?
If you get relegated, due straight away, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So they've only got 15 mil to play with from parachute payments this year then. Interesting. Yeah,
They've got a lot of assets, though, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. Like Will Daniels just
Will
put
mentions,
Pope, McNeil. Yeah, so they have got some good assets there to bring in a bit of money. Yeah, I think we'll have to keep a close eye on Burnley because they could be definitely one that will go either one or two ways. Either they'll do fantastically well or they will be
straight through.
Yeah. Yeah, they could be in one way out the other, or they could be straight back up. I don't think it'll be a late playoff push for Burnley. It'll be one or the other this season for them, which could be good news for us. Hopefully 6 points.
Yeah, and they've also got to pick up their management situation. They've still got Mike Jackson's an interim manager. I remember last time when we played him, I think in 2015, I think we played him, Mick. They came down from the Premier League with Sean Dyche, with Vokes in the team, Andre Gray. They came down and were prepared for the Championship at the time. They were prepared to go straight back up. They couldn't be further away from that. They've got these great players in Cornet, Pope, McNeil, etc. They're going to have to get rid of them to pay off the loan so that they can continue. It's as Dennis says, it's difficult to know exactly, but things have been made much more difficult, and it's all their fault.
Yeah, it just makes you sort of cheerful and happy about how our club is running, doesn't it? You know, these are things that at the moment, as we stand, it's not something that is a worry for us. You've got to feel necessarily for the supporters of these clubs that, you know, you gamble and gambling rarely wins, does it? You know what I mean? And it's coming home to roost for so many clubs now, and it's the fans that suffer ultimately. But yeah, I mean, we're in a position where we need to take advantage of these sorts of things. So we'll have to see how it pans out with them. But they've got a lot of money they've got a lot of good players that they could sell to realise some cash to get themselves a solid Championship squad together. So yeah, we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, John Mills, I think they're losing 9 players out of contract. Tarkowski is one of them, I think. He's been one of their best central defenders. So
that is an issue, then, isn't it? I didn't realise that. Yeah, these are. I mean, that's not something that you consider, is it? You know, you look at the players that they've got, and then you think, well, you know, they've got. You just assume that they're all in contract, and clearly some of them aren't. So,
yeah, there they are. Will Dunn says huge rebuild in terms of new manager and new style. How that loan has been agreed by the powers that be, putting the club in a new level of jeopardy is ludicrous. But he suspects they'll be top 10, and this feeds into the question of regulation in football. That loans like that you can't buy a club. You shouldn't be able to buy a club using the club's cash. It's crazy. Can I borrow money from you to buy you? No, you can't do that. That's stupid. But it's allowed in football. Don't
worry, the EFL are all over this.
They are they.
But no, they're not, to be fair. But what they are doing, they're very, very good at digging up tweets from 10 years ago to try and discipline players. They're all over that. Not a problem, because that's a piece of cake. But let's not deal with this that's complicated, that might be ruining football.
Okay, that was a mini Mick rant for everybody there.
A little mini rant there for you.
John Morell says Sky has said Vincent Kompany has been lined to take the job. Yeah, that'll solve everything. We'll get a really young and experienced manager to come into a really competitive.
Who's going to have to be paid an arm and a leg to do it?
Who doesn't know the league?
Yeah. Sounds like a plan to me.
Well done, guys. There's no Burnley fans. I'll clip that for next season, won't they?
I'm having a quick Google of that because I should. Here we go. Vincent Kompany's managed Anderlecht on 2 occasions.
Player manager.
Yeah, player manager, then took over as manager. Just as manager. I think so. Yeah.
It's from Belgium, isn't it? So I don't know exactly where.
Yeah, I think it's as near as it can get. I think. But he's not really uprooted any trees in his short time at Anderlecht, and I think to get him away from that to return to English football, it will be a pretty penny to bring him back as well. Yeah, so might be wishful thinking from Sky, but it might be a gamble Burnley's willing to take. We'll have to wait and see.
Do you think they've just gone? He's a continental Sean Dyche, isn't he? He's a big, strong central defender.
European Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting, Matt, that there's going to now be the European Managers Association? With their own exit tactics?
Yeah, could be.
I hate to say it though, but the perfect manager to get Burnley out of this situation would be Sean Dyche, but they sacked him and then got relegated. I mean, I honestly think if they'd have kept him, he would have found a way to keep Burnley up. I'm sure he would have done.
He'd have gotten back up.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario. For me, and I think we're a club that, obviously in the Championship, do a similar sort of thing. That you obviously want to stay up and you pay the money to try and stay up. But if it hits the fan, we're prepared. If we go back down, we've got a system in place. You've got Paul Warren at the minute. You've got a transfer system in place. I think that's really, really important. You have that. Even if you're in Championship for 6 years, you've still got to have some sort of plan in place if it all goes wrong. And Burnley had that until 6 months ago, until these new owners took over, who took the risk. And I'll be honest with you guys. My list is done.
You're not going to talk about Delia?
Delia Smith, the Cub.
Yeah, well, they're coming down and all, aren't they?
I mean, but we knew about that 6 weeks ago. Well, 12 months ago.
We were covering who were coming down and who were going up. Sorry, forgive me.
We can do. We didn't really cover Watford. I suppose we did cover Watford.
Yeah, we covered Watford, didn't we? They're coming down. And they'll go back up again. That's how it works. Norwich are coming down. They'll go back up again. That's how it works. The
interesting thing with Norwich is they've changed manager.
Yeah.
They've done what we haven't, which we're happy with, is that they've got rid of Farker. They brought Dean Smith in, who needed the playoffs to get promoted with Jack Grealish in the team.
Yeah. Fair comment. Good point. Well made. Maybe they've decided they want to spend a couple of years in Championship.
Yeah.
Who knows?
John Morrell, Norwich and Watford in the top 2 next season. Move on.
Yeah. Fair comment. Yeah.
You're probably right.
They are right.
Is there anything else? We've got plenty of time. If there's anything else that you need to talk about, so we talk about what's coming up in terms of our future episodes. What you think we talked to Neil Richardson, as we've already mentioned, so that will be out potentially this week. If not this week, it'll be out next week, the following Thursday. We're also talking to Chris Cedric. We're speaking to him this week, so that'll be out again, probably June, to be honest with you. We're going to try and keep doing these live Sunday night episodes, Monday morning episodes for the podcast, just to wrap up any news that has been done. And then the midweek episodes, unless there's been any major breaking news, will then just be any form of player interviews. We're going to try and speak to some family members. We're going to try and speak to... We've got some Victor's family lined up to talk to over the next few weeks as well. I don't know how much of that's going to be broadcastable because Tobias and his family are amazingly hilarious. But
is that going to be the New York Talk Drunk podcast?
I thought that. Yeah, Rotherham fans drunk that week.
That can't be live under no circumstances. That broadcast live.
But that's what we're planning on doing because I find it interesting. You're finding out from their family they came into football. They spoke to Alison, didn't we? Dan Barlow's mother, Christmas episode. And we've had the pleasure of meeting Tobias and Theo Bourne and Marcus, who are Victor's family, and they are hilarious. So to get them on would be an absolute riot. So yeah, that's coming up. This is what's coming up. This may be part of an episode. And also, we want to get more fans involved. You know, what we've been doing the last 20 minutes or so of previous episodes with fans during the season. Get involved. If we've got a few people who've already said they want to come on, or I will be in touch with shortly to get you on. The other fan story, we want to more hear. There's so many different types of Rotherham fans, isn't there? We've heard from people in Australia. We've heard from people elsewhere. Get involved. rufcpod@gmail.com. is the email if you want to get involved. Boys, I've given you plenty of time. I filled for ages. Is there anything you want to talk about?
I think we should release the new transfer rumour that we're going to try and get circulated around Twitter.
Yeah.
Do this. Again, much like the Wednesday video we put out, we will need everybody's help with this. But so Danny, it has to be a sensible rumor, a sensible-ish rumor. We can't go sign Messi on Mbappe style contract terms. What are we thinking?
Well, I think it's a given that we'll be probably loaning out Josh Chapman, try and get him some match experience in the championship, away from the championship. But there is also a very experienced goalkeeper who's probably looking at carrying on his career somewhere now that he's left Watford, and that is Ben Foster. I have planted the seed by commenting on his podcast, saying I think you should come to Rotherham. You'd be a great teacher for our younger goalkeepers, and we'd have Andy Warrington and Ben Foster passing on their knowledge to Victor and Vickers. I think it just makes sense for everybody, to be fair, and it'd be a great guest to have on the podcast as well during the Sunday episodes. We could go on his podcast as well. New York Talk on the Cycling GK podcast. I think it just makes sense for all parties, to be honest, and I think Ben Foster will be coming to Rotherham.
When you say all parties, you mean us?
Yeah, but
I think that's a fair comment, that Danny. I like where you're coming from there. It's going to benefit. It's going to benefit Ben, because obviously he's going to be able to then as he starts to move into coaching and everything else. So we can get him in his badges and all that sort of stuff if he's not got them already. But it's all about that experience. I think it's a done deal, to be honest.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have someone at the club who's older than Richard Woods as well.
Yeah, but what I would say, don't tell anybody.
Secret. Shh.
Keep it to yourself.
Why's that red light blinking at the top of the screen?
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Ben Foster's going to Rotherham. Done deal, boys. Done deal.
Yeah, has to be.
I don't know.
We'll pay him a Fred all week to come and play for us.
Yeah, I wouldn't sort of mention, Mick, how good news it is. I know we sort of glossed over it. Victor confirmation that his contract's been renewed last week. We didn't talk about it because there was so much other stuff to talk about. That is it's an automatic renewal, but it's really good to have him on board with Josh Vickers. They're clearly close. Those two are very, very close. Obviously, Josh Chapman as well. It's an amazing goalkeeping setup we've got, and Victor's a great part to have. And obviously, we love having him part of the club.
I mean, let's be fair. From a goalkeeping point of view, I don't think, in my memory, I can't think we've ever been in a better place. We've throughout the years, I can remember some really, really good goalkeepers that we've had. I can never remember having two fighting for the same place who were just as good as each other. Possibly going back to the 70s, we got Jim McDonough and Roy Tunks, who were both probably about on a level. But they weren't on the level that these two are on. These two are. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that Victor will play international football for Sweden. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Josh Vickers, unfortunately for Josh, I suspect he's English, isn't he? So that might not be an international career. Might not be on the horizon for him.
Might have some Welsh or Scottish grandparents. You don't know.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Absolutely. So we've never been better placed. And as Cheryl Stone's just pointed out in the comments there, they're both ours. Neither of them are lone players. So yeah, it's great to see Victor back. Love him to bits. Absolutely love him to bits. So yeah, it's fantastic news.
Yeah, if you'd like some context, when we spoke to Victor, I asked him about his international ambitions, and obviously sort of played it down, which is understandable. And we're looking at their goalkeepers, and Doncaster's goalkeeper from this season has 2 caps. I know he's on loan from Watford, but Pontus Dahlberg has 2 international caps. And bear in mind some of the videos that's been going around this week from Donny's season. He was involved in some of those terrible moments, so that gives you an idea of if he has a good season Championship. Who knows? Sky's the limit, isn't it? If it's something like that. Heard it here first. Victor's getting a call up for the Swedish national team.
And if he does, we've got first dibs on the shirts, by the way.
I think his dad might have first dibs on a Sweden shirt, to be honest.
We're first dibs outside of the immediate family, then.
Okay. Yes, that's fair enough. Paramount UK says we need some contracts sorting out. Yeah, I would. Well, it's almost guaranteed. A guarantee is a strong word in football because nothing's guaranteed. But we've been told by the end of the coming week that Michael Smith will be decided one way or another. And Michael Hickways is not going to be too far off, is it, mate? We can't be waiting much longer than the season starts in 2 months. We can't be waiting much longer for both of them.
No, we can't. And to be fair, the players will want to get themselves sorted anyway as well, won't they? So everything will be done as quickly and expeditiously as possible, won't it? For
expeditiously.
Expeditiously. I like a long word. I don't know what it means, but I think it just means quick. But, listen, I'm going to nail my colours to the mast. And I wouldn't put money on it, but I think they'll both sign.
Okay. That would be incredible if they both signed, to be honest with you.
Absolutely unbelievable. But on the flip side of it, if they don't, I wish them both well. They'll move on to somewhere else, and we'll get somebody better in.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay.
We will, because I genuinely... But they may not be better to start with, but we will develop into better players. You know what I mean? And that's where we're going at the moment. That's where we appear to be going. We're progressing not only in terms of the quality of the players that we're keeping under contract, but we're also progressing in terms of the quality of players that we're signing. So it's all looking good at the moment in that respect, from my point of view.
Yeah. Paramed UK has been drinking from the same cup as you, Mick. If they both sign, I'm sticking money on us to make the top 6. No.
That would be ambitious, but brilliant.
Yeah. John Morell says the contract renewals are usually sorted by now. If it takes long, can't be good. Our contract renewals have always taken this long, positive or negatively. But don't know.
But the thing is, the difference is that the season's only just finished.
And it hasn't for Championship.
Well, and it hasn't for the Championship. So that's the difference, I think, this year. Obviously, some Championships clubs are still involved. Well, 2 are. But so I get where John's coming from, and that is a way of looking at it. But we'll see. It is what it is. Either way, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No. Cheryl Stone asked when the players set for pre-season training. They're probably not much more than 4 weeks away. They normally have a good 6 or 7 weeks with the pre-season. And bear in mind the season starts at the very end of July. You're probably talking, again, this is nothing official. You're probably talking somewhere around the 13th or 20th of June to get prepared for the season. So really not far away at all for the players going back in.
Matt, that was the exact date I had in my head as well. It's like, we'll be back around mid-June. Yeah, that's perfect, spot on.
Yeah.
They'll probably be back a week before what I suspect will be the date for the Parkgate game, which is 25th of June, potentially. They'll probably be back the week before that, I suspect. Because that's just like the showpiece opener, really, into the town club against the club that hosts our training complex. So yeah, probably the week before that, they'll be still a little bit rusty is not the right word, but they'll have been drinking far too much for their own good, especially after Vegas. So they'll be a bit off pace. That's a better way of putting it. But I'm looking forward to seeing them back, to be honest. Pre-season is always nice just to see, which trialists we get in, are they any good, see how other players are like, to see him playing those sort of games, especially Georgie Kelly. I'm really looking forward to seeing Kelly in pre-season. But I have been doing some looking up about when we release retained lists and stuff. And did we release ours on the 16th this time around? 16, 17, something like that?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, well, we've more or less always released our retained list the second week in May for at least the last 5 years, as far as I can find on the internet. And then it usually all kicks off in June, but because season's a bit earlier this time, probably see something around the end of May, start of June in terms of contracts. But like you said before, it usually takes a little bit for us to get going, doesn't it, with contracts being officially renewed. I think it took us a while to even trigger Danny Ward's 12-month option before we sold him on to Cardiff. Was it Cardiff? We sold him. Yeah,
that's right.
It took us a bit to announce that, so it could be the same with Smith. Just to announce whether he's going or staying, we'll have to wait and see. It'll take us a bit to announce if Chio's signed a new deal or whether he's just keeping on his 12-month option. Same with Yiki about signing a new deal. So yeah, I think football symmetry. We all like football symmetry, don't we? We should start hearing things at the start of June.
I like it.
As a guess.
As it should be done. Yeah. I bet you got to look at also the transfer business in League One. We didn't start signing anybody we didn't sign most of our top players till the week of the season starting, which is obviously not ideal, but if that's the case, so be it. As long as they're the right people, who cares? Yeah, there we go. Final call for any of the topics, because we've now got over our time.
Nah, not for me.
Brilliant. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. We had tipped over 1,000 followers on Twitter, which thank you everybody very much for tipping us over that lovely little landmark. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube because we're creeping up to 600 on there. If you're on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere else that's audio, make sure you subscribed and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, particularly if you can, because that's what it asks for. We will be back. There will be a new episode on Thursday. Keep an eye out for that. That will either be the Neil Richardson interview, which is about an hour and a half. It's an extra long one, but it's very well worth it. Or if there's any big news, we will be back live to talk about a Smith deal, transfer signings, whatever. But we'll certainly be back live next Sunday. And then, yeah, cool. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Mick, there was only a little bit of rant today. Well done.
Well, there's not a lot happening, is there, mate? I'm teeing up. I'm getting ready for. I'm sharpening my cue for Championship.
Just keep it in. You're keeping the engine ticking over, as they say.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Danny, always a pleasure. Think of some good transfer rumours next time. We'll stop, piling them out.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, what do you think to the? I'll go that way. What do you think to the flag? Our viewers on YouTube. What do you think to the flag being up? Proud of South Yorkshire. Only team in South Yorkshire to have a good season.
Exactly. It weren't hard.
No.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Freddie's on one-on-one. Freddie's fairly shoot. Container shot. Yeah!